So every January 14th, my family celebrates this made-up holiday called Blood Thinner Appreciation Day, and it's the day that commemorates my second pulmonary embolism experience. Last year, I actually wrote a blog post about Blood Thinner Appreciation Day. I'll link that here in case you want to read it, but this year I decided to do something a little bit different to celebrate. Usually, every year, I have some sort of red velvet treat. Last year we had red velvet cake. This morning I have red velvet old-fashioned donuts, which 10 out of 10 would recommend. But that's not where the celebration stops today. So I'm gonna finish getting ready and then I'll fill you in on what I'm about to do. So I am currently sitting in a parking garage, staring at the place that feels like home, the place where I grew up, and that is Children's Medical Center. It was on this day in 2013 that I was brought here by helicopter with massive pulmonary embolism and strain on my heart, and really significant complications that I certainly didn't think I would make it through. And today, as I celebrate life, the gift of life, the fragility of life, I have the incredible opportunity to start volunteering here. And today, on Blood Thinner Appreciation Day, I get to walk back into that building for my orientation. And what better way is there to celebrate life in the place where so much of my life happened, the place where so many times I thought life was coming to an end. To serve in this place where life and death collide is the greatest gift. And I am so glad that I bought waterproof mascara. You know, I thought I would end this vlog celebrating Blood Thinner Appreciation Day with you. I thought we would celebrate that I had walked back into this place I used to think I would never want to return to. And yet I walked back in and felt a sense of belonging. Not belonging as a patient and the pain that comes with that, but belonging as someone who is there to serve. I thought we would celebrate that this place I used to hate, this place I thought was irredeemable, had been redeemed in so many ways. I thought we would celebrate that the irredeemable had been redeemed. But if we ended the vlog that way, we would only be telling and honoring part of the story, because the story doesn't just end with celebration. You see, a few days after Blood Thinner Appreciation Day, I was supposed to have this doctor's appointment that I was more than ready for. And as I quickly hurried from my class back to my apartment for this appointment, I was praying that I would be bold enough to say what I needed to say, praying that I would be courageous enough to advocate well for myself, praying that I would be brave enough to say, I am not okay, I am in pain, and I need help. And about 10 minutes before the appointment, I received a call saying the appointment had been canceled, and I would be seeing a different doctor in clinic the following week. And I began to spiral in frustration, spiral in fear, spiral in disappointment and disillusionment, spiraling in emotions that I don't even know how to name. I adore both of those doctors, the one I was supposed to see and the one that I will see in clinic. But the one I will see in clinic is primarily a children's doctor. So I assumed that seeing her in clinic would mean walking back into children's as a patient. I would have to walk back in and feel that sense of belonging, but not belonging as a volunteer, belonging as a patient in pain. And I began to grieve. And I wondered how I could go from celebrating the redemption of this place to grieving, having to walk back into that same place in just a matter of days. How could I go from celebrating to grieving so quickly? And as I was trying to understand why I was now feeling this weight I couldn't even bear, when I had just felt so light and happy and filled with gratitude. As I wondered how I could go from celebrating to grieving the same place, the return to the same place, I began to think about Christmas. See, at Christmas time, I spent hours trying to wrap this one particular present. I had watched YouTube videos on how to beautifully wrap gifts and make enormous bows out of regular ribbon. I had spent hours trying to wrap this gift and make it look neat and tidy and perfect, beautifully wrapped up with a bow on top. And when I was finally done, I had finally finished wrapping it up, I set it to the side under the tree. And along came my sweet little mischievous Phoebe, who's looking at me right now like, what did I do? You see, Phoebe wanted to help the receiver of the gift unwrap it. I assume that's what she was trying to do. Every day she would go over to the Christmas tree and she would begin to scratch at the present. I would tell her no and get her away from the present, and as soon as I would walk out of the living room, she would go right back to it and start trying to tear it open again. So finally, I decided I would just move the present. I would just take it out of the living room and put it in a room that she couldn't get to. And when I went to pick up the present, I turned it around and I realized that she had tore through the wrapping paper. She had destroyed part of that beautiful bow. But you see, from one angle, it still looked so beautifully wrapped, so neat and tidy, so put together. And yet from the other angle, you could see what was inside. because it had tears in the exterior. It was wounded, so to speak. And what was inside was exposed. And I think that's what returning to Children's is kind of like for me. That's what Blood Thinner Appreciation Day is like. It is this gift that from one angle, I have wrapped up. I've wrapped up so many of the experiences that I had there. I've wrapped up so much of my life there and put a beautiful bow on it, set it to the side, set it in the past. So much of that part of my life is wrapped up. And yet from another angle, you can see that there are still tears. There are still wounds that leave parts of me and my life and my story exposed. Returning to Children's as a patient, the thought of returning to Children's as a patient, it's like a tear in what I thought was so beautifully wrapped up. And I grieve those tears, those cuts, those wounds. I celebrate what has been wrapped up. I celebrate the parts of my life that have been redeemed, the stories and experiences that no longer hurt to talk about. But I also honor the tears, the wounds, the cuts that leave me exposed by grieving them. I both celebrate and grieve. I celebrate my life as a patient. I celebrate that I've had so many wonderful doctors come alongside me and do everything they can to see me flourish. I celebrate how far we have come together, and yet I grieve. I grieve the pain that brought us together in the first place. I celebrate that I can walk back into Children's as a volunteer and feel a sense of belonging as someone there to serve, and yet I also grieve the thought of walking back in there as a patient and having to relive some of the most painful experiences and days of my life. And I'm giving myself permission to both celebrate and grieve. That is what Blood Thinner Appreciation Day reminds me to do. To celebrate how far I have come and to grieve the pain, the wounds, the obstacles that have been in my way. I give myself permission to both celebrate and grieve.